Hi, everyone. Let me see if my slides are working. They are. OK. My name is Jimil Patel. I lead the developer advocacy and product marketing teams at Intuit. This session is called From Cloud Native to AI Native, Supercharging Developer Velocity at Intuit. My goal is to give you some practical lessons on our journey to bringing AI to Intuit. We started our journey where we doubled our developer velocity when we moved to cloud-native tools. And now we are on our journey to 6x that velocity. And here are some lessons. And I'm going to also try to show you what we built on the platform itself. Let me get my clicker. So if you don't know about Intuit, Intuit is a global technology company that also owns these sub-brands or awesome consumer brands, TurboTax, MailChimp, Credit Karma, and QuickBooks. We have 100 million customers. We process over $107 billion in tax refunds, $2 trillion in invoices from small businesses. And there's also a product called QuickBooks Payroll that pays 18 million US workers. These are small business gig economy workers. And how we do that? Through our platform. Our platform runs at a hyperscale. We have over 1 million CPU cores. We have over 2,500 services in production, 345 Kubernetes clusters, 30,000 namespaces, and a lot more that you will see. So that's kind of like about Intuit, what the products do, where they run on. And today we are going to talk about AI native experiences, the hot topic. I tried to think about the title, and I realized this is too buzzwordy. But then I also wanted to make sure I put some justice behind the words I use. So what is AI native? You might have heard cloud native. That's like a term that has been tossed in the industry for a while. But the new kid in town is AI native. And what AI native experiences are the experiences that are built with AI in the core and bringing and folding in AI during the design phase. And that's what AI native is. And if you're like, oh, what does that mean? I try to put it in another perspective of cars. If you think about cars, back in the day when we had the old cars, the manual cars, they were like our non-AI cars. So you have to do everything yourself, steering wheel, flip the gears, hit the accelerator pad, whatnot. Today, we are in this AI-augmented car journey where not the Waymos, but like the cars you own probably have some sort of a ADAS, like driver assistance system that either you don't need to accelerate or it keeps you in your lane, or you don't have to switch gears. They're all automatic. And then AI-native cars are things that we haven't seen yet. And they will be cars without steering wheels or pedals for gas. Or even the seats in the picture, it's facing front. But why do they need to face in the front? They can be facing on the opposite side, and you can more comfortably sit there. So that's like what AI native means the car was built from the ground up to think about the car going to be running autonomously. In the morning, Kelsey talked about the cruise cars or the Waymo cars. They're still, I would say, in the AI augmented land because they took existing cars, retrofitted them with LiDARs and lasers and whatnot, and made them autonomous. But we are yet to see the truly AI native cars where the whole direction of what a car means might change for us. And that's what AI native is for a platform. And when you're building something AI native, that's how you need to think about the platform from the ground up as well. So how are we doing this? So let me talk a little bit about our journey to getting here and like what our platform strategy is. So Intuit is a 40-year-old company. And because of the age, we have acquired a lot of debt, and things keep changing. Blockchain happened, cloud happened, and now AI is happening. So in 2011, we started our journey to go from on-prem servers and on-prem services to cloud services. So that's where we just moved our monoliths to AWS or one of the cloud providers. We also, after we did that, we realized is the same issues just on the cloud now. So we got to break down the monoliths, create more microservices. So that's when we started doing the cloud native part of things, where we started adopting Kubernetes, and we started adopting all the CNCF technologies. that's where we saw like a doubling of our developer velocity. And now, from last year to now, we are on our journey to now have a next shift where we are trying to become an AI native company, where AI is going to be at the forefront of development, and how our developers will experience this platform is through the lens of AI. So I'm going to show you what that means, and it has like 4 key pillars. But before I do that, like the reason we started on this journey is because when we started measuring like where do developers spend time, on the left you have the, or at least, on the left you have the inner and the outer loop, and on the right you have the requirements and design phase. The inner and the outer loop is where you spend your time coding, debugging, testing. That's where most of the developers spend 40% of their time. And the outer loop is like when you deploy, test, and actually run things. That's when the outer loop happens, and that's where 30% of your time is spent. So 70% of the time, which was a big chunk of the time, we wanted to make this time more efficient and for developers to be more powerful in that inner loop and outer loop journey. So we did this study, understood where people spend time on what phases of the software development lifecycle, and which phases might be the ones you need to tweak to make it the fastest. So that's how this all started. And this is kind of the platform that we ended up building to enable that. We call it modern SaaS AIR. AIR stands for AI Runtime or AI Revolution. You take your pick. But this platform, on the very top, we have our dev portal. And dev portal is your internal IDP. This could be your Backstage. We have our own. We actually built it before Backstage was a thing. But dev portal is where everybody accesses these features. There is Dev Assist, which has tools that are more assistance to developers. So these are AI native development tools and agents that help you build stuff. And then there's 4 key pillars. The first one is done for you app experiences. This is essentially helping developers build applications faster. Then we have the Gen AI assisted development, which is coding, testing, and debugging tools. That is more tools for developers to go faster. These are tools like code generation tools, test generation tools, PR merge assistance, those kinds of things. And then we have the app-centric runtime for agent, service, and platform development. So agent development is a new paradigm now, and we're already starting to think about it. What are the frameworks? What are the SDKs we should start providing our developers to build some of these agents? Service and platform are things we've been building in the past as well. And then smart operations using AIOps. How do we use AI in the operations side of things when incidents happen, or when you're trying to increase your uptime? Like how do you use AI to make that happen? And all of this, at the foundation of all of this, is the operational data lake, where all our metrics that are collected through your dev journey power this platform. So we collect all the data around how many PRs you make, how many, what is your lines of code, how many lines of code you accepted through AI, that kind of stuff. And that all information is kind of feeding into the platform and giving you analytics on what decision you should make next. So we're going to go through this platform, and I'm going to show you different pillars and what we have built for each of the pillars in the time we have. So I'm going to go a little bit faster. If you have questions, I'm going to be around after the session, so I'm happy to chat more and talk through some of these in detail. So first one is done for you app experiences. This is essentially where we are enabling our developers to build AI applications faster. And the way we have done it is we have built something called GenUX and Intuit Design System. Those are the 2 things. Design systems are things you might be already familiar with. But you're like, Jimil, design systems for designers, why does it matter for developers? This is more than just a design system. We have built reusable AI components that our developers can use to build AI experiences. So for designers, it's essentially Figma libraries where they have all the components that you need for building dynamic experiences. When you're talking to AI, it needs to feel dynamic. It needs to feel something that's always ongoing. So you need design components for that. And then once your designer builds these components, you have to implement as a front-end engineer. And for that, you need constant communication with your APIs behind the scenes. So these out-of-the-box plugins, they come with instrumentation inside it. So it has all the telemetry collection and whatnot happening. It has connections to the right APIs. And on the designer front, they just have a library of these tools. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. And we call it Gen UX, which is like Gen AI, Gen UX. We have another thing called Gen OS. So we have a bunch of these which actually power the platform. This is kind of like a snapshot of what this looks like. But if you're a designer, imagine like you have a library of things that you have AI interactions for. And then you pick the AI interaction you'd like and then modify it for your design. So this is like a Figma library. And then on the flip side, I'll also show you what the developer sees and how can they implement some of these libraries shortly as well. So that is kind of done for you experiences. I'm going to club the demo for this as well as the next section together, so I don't have to keep switching. But the learnings there were like, build an AI-first design system. If your company doesn't have it, and if you're building AI experiences, you got to start thinking about having a design system tailored for AI, tailored for dynamic experiences. The second one is the dynamic experiences. Dynamic experiences are a little different. So if you think about your current REST experiences, they are more like request response kind of things. And these are like streaming workflows where information is being streamed as the AI is thinking and answering. So as your answers are coming in, it's streamed right in the developer or the user window. So you got to think about how you enable those kinds of experiences. And then finally have a multi-platform strategy. A lot of people just think web first. But with AI, things will be on mobile as quickly, and there's limitations on what you can do on iOS, Android. So think about like a multi-platform strategy, not just web only. So that's kind of what we learned on the done-for-you experiences. The next one is Gen AI-assisted development, coding, testing, debugging. How many of you here are experimenting with code gen tools? With a raise of hands. OK. If you're not, you should start trying because they're amazing. And even if you're not a developer, these tools will make you feel like one. This landscape is evolving rapidly. The AI code gen market is growing, or supposed to be growing, as 27.1% CAGR, reaching up to $24 billion by 2030. I just recently heard OpenAI is going to acquire Windsurf, one of the prominent code gen vendors. And what we have saw, what Intuit saw is like there's too many to keep up. And today Cursor is better, tomorrow is Windsurf's better, day after tomorrow someone else is better. So it's evolving so fast that it's hard to keep up. So what we have done here is we have come up with a more vendor-neutral strategy where Intuit context is the key. So Intuit developers work with an AI pair programmer. This could be any of the vendors, whether it's Rucode, Klein, Cursor, Windsurf. So any vendor, it can essentially use as a window to query. What that goes into is there's the public LLM side of things, which is the public, which are trained on the public code, open source repos, and documentation. And then on the top, you have all the Intuit development ecosystem, which is Intuit's code. And we have started to curate these things called the golden repos. And those are repositories that we deeply care about, things like identity, database integrations, and whatnot. And they are like repos we maintain and train these, or at least implement RAG with these vendors so that essentially when you ask a question, you don't get a generic response. You get a response with Intuit standards baked in. And that's what we have learned, that that's the key. So for instance, like here, you might have asked, like, create a form, and there is a loan eligibility widget that is being generated. But when you say, like, use Intuit standards, it uses the Intuit design system buttons and Intuit design system components, right, when the suggestions or code suggestions are made. And that is huge for developers because, yes, I can use Cursor, and it will build apps for me, but I cannot use it at work because my work requires me to use this, this, and this. It has these versions. It has these limitations. And when your tool is trained on those versions, limitations, and tools, that's when you get the real value. So that's essentially like what we have done here. So here's like kind of like why context is the secret sauce. So prompt before, like if you asked loan eligibility widget, do the same thing, it would create a form that looked like this. If you then, after adding the context, make the same request and say bake in Intuit standards, It uses the Intuit logos. There is accessibility baked in. The form uses our themes and colors. And there's also telemetry data, like it collects telemetry data for failures and whatnot. So all of that is baked in, and Intuit standards are aligned. So I think that's where like what we learned from our code gen journey. Don't focus on the coolest and the latest in the market. Focus on things that are durable to you, things like an evaluation framework of how do you evaluate these tools, things like how do you add context and what context to add, how do you curate these code samples that you want to train on. The outcome of that is like you can see the charts. We had 3x'd our developer velocity when added context. So without context on the backend code generation, we saw a 3x increase. On the backend, on the front end side, we saw a 10x increase, like without context or with context. And again, it was the same thing where without context, it would generate boilerplate code, but that was just not usable for company stuff. So that's why when we added the context, there was code, it produced codes that was actually usable, and that would pass our unit tests, and that would pass our other linters that we have internally as well. OK, so before we go into the takeaways, I'm going to show you a little bit of this. So this is Intuit's development portal. This is what it looks like. This is not commercially available, so you'll probably just see it here in this demo. So first thing we have done is we have created this assistant for developers. We call it Intuit Assist internally. And I can ask it questions like, how do I install Python using PyEnv on Mac? And this is something we need to do because we have different Python environments. It can read our documentation. It can read our Stack Overflow and make these suggestions. And I can ask the same question to ChatGPT, but it will give me more generic suggestions. So here's like all the instructions with code, and then it tells me where it found all the information from. So if I click on this thing, this is Intuit Stack Overflow, and someone who works for Intuit, an employee, has already asked this question, and based on the answer, it is able to find out how to answer this question. I can also ask, how do I call APIs with App Fabric, which is an Intuit internal library, and using TypeScript, for example. And you can see the dynamic experiences here as well. This whole spinner thing is a part of Intuit design system, which is what was implemented to make this happen. So here, again, it is asking me to set up my dev environment, create a plugin. It has links for docs, and these are all internal docs. These are not external docs. And then what to do to actually make the API call as well. Let me see if, and how do I add to Intuit NPM registry? So you can kind of see the use cases here where you can ask these questions, and these questions were before coming to either support channels or your colleagues or your team channels, and that's where they're being asked, versus now an assistant is able to answer these questions for them. And then this is also, if I go to my VS Code, this is an omnipresent experience. So this same experience that you saw in the dev portal is here. So all the questions I asked about NPM registry, how do I call APIs, or how do I install stuff, is also here. So when you're coding, you don't have to leave your IDE to ask these questions as well. And it's also integrated where you can insert stuff at your cursor. So if it's like suggesting, this is just like a get call, but you can just hit insert at cursor, and that would insert within your IDE as well. So you can have it suggest code samples, and you can essentially implement them while you're coding as well. And I talked about the Gen UX part in the beginning, which was more for a library of web components. So we also built an extension for that. So if you're a front-end developer trying to build user experiences, you will see this Intuit design system drop-down, which has things like buttons, labels, and you can choose whatever you would like to implement. And these are the web components. There's also the AI components, which is the Intuit Assist components. And here, too, there is like stuff like brand elements and animated icon. So here's the React code. I can hit install, and it would install onto my NPM project. Or if I do the storybook preview, it will show me how it looks like in a preview mode. So if I were to implement a spinner like this, which you saw being used in the chat, you can easily implement it. And these are reusable tools with instrumentation built in. So once I use it, I will get user telemetry data of like, are people clicking on it? Or if it fails, I get like fail customer interactions. They're all baked into this as well. So let me go back to the learnings here. So on the code-assisted development tools, the learning was context is key. Make sure you don't get tools that have no context, especially for enterprise code. Like when you want people to write code certain way, make sure the suggestions they're getting have that context built in. Don't focus on vendors. Focus on your company. Focus on what you need, because the vendors are always going to keep saying, this is the best. These are winning on the software engineering benchmark scores or this or that. But that works for university, not for your company. Create an evaluation and measurement framework, and have it be vendor agnostic as well. So when you have that evaluation framework, you can evaluate everybody while keeping all the coolness aside and see how they perform. Our evaluation framework have 400 developers try out a tool before deciding to invest in any of that. So have these kind of rules before choosing the right tools. And then when in doubt, try it out. So don't hesitate to try out the new next cool thing and give it to your developers and see how it goes. OK, next up, app-centric runtime, agent service, and platform development. So hot take here, similar to what people were saying in the morning, in 2025, I think not everybody needs to learn Kubernetes. And that's kind of like the stance we started on when we were building this platform. We call it IKS, Intuit Kubernetes Services. And if you work in platform engineering, you might have seen hundreds and hundreds of YAML files, and over time, they keep getting longer and longer. And that's what we saw as well. And there's different types of ingresses, autoscalers, service definitions, and more keep coming as you integrate more tools. So what we decided to do is we abstracted all of that and created a simplified YAML for our company. And that's what it looks like. You essentially define, I want a service. I want a service to have this image. And you can add custom tags if you wanted to add. And that's it. And that would generate all the other stuff which is needed by our company. So the abstraction was just something the developers would see, and then it would spit out the actual YAML files that the Kubernetes cluster would want. And our platform engineering team does understand the expanded files. But our QuickBooks developers, our TurboTax developers do not need to understand that. So that was kind of the premise of getting here and building this application. Another thing we did was we did intelligent autoscaling. So yes, Kubernetes comes with some autoscaling features, but again, it was too complicated. You had to figure out what to put as a min replica, what to put as a max replica, and then how to keep changing it. So we built some Intuit components as well. Like here, you see the long-term, and these are differentiated by either vertical scaling or horizontal scaling. So on the vertical scaling, we built out the long-term vertical recommender that works in partnership with the VPA. And the same thing on the horizontal part scaling, we built a real-time HPA recommender and a long-term replica recommender. And what these tools do is they keep updating the Kubernetes manifest based on historical data. The long-term manifest looks at long-term data and then makes a recommendation like this is what your min replica and max replica should be. And then the real-time HPA recommender does it in real time, like as little as 30 seconds. So whenever you have a surge of load, it will automatically change your Kubernetes manifest to scale up or scale down. And I'll show some of it as well on how that works. Let me actually quickly go into that and show you the service side of things. So again, in the dev portal, here what our developers can do is hit create. And create takes us to our create page, which has different types of things that a developer can create. These are what we call paved roads, and I think someone mentioned paved roads in the past as well. We have a services paved road, so you can decide to create a service and hit create, and you fill out certain things. I'm not going to show you the filling out part, but what it does is it will create a service like this. On the service configuration side, you will see all the environments and deployment details. Every deployment has Argo CD baked in. We are one of the creators of Argo CD. So it has different steps. Every time a deployment happens, it will set weight to 25, deploy it in one region, run an analysis, and if the analysis passes, then it increases the weight, sets it to 50%, runs another analysis, and gradually deploys all the tools out there. It also has links for, if you want to go to the Argo CD, the Splunk page for these, you can easily switch out to any of these. It has repos for deployment, configuration, and the application itself. Okay, so I am running out of time. I'm going to quickly go through the rest of my slides. But invest in auto-scaling, abstract Kubernetes, and adopt progressive delivery are the 3 takeaways that I would give about. On the operations side, I just explained that part as well. We have the stable and the canary releases. So as we get anomaly scores, we would either roll out or roll back automatically and create self-healing infrastructure like that. We have log summarization also. So we have stuff that summarizes the logs, gives you time slices, and tells you what happened in a certain time frame. So yeah, 4 key takeaways: design for AI from day one. Have context for your AI tools. Abstract the infrastructure and operationalize AI across your company. That's my talk. Intuit is the end user recipient for 2019-2022. We have created a lot of open source software like Argo, Player, Admiral. If you're interested in any of the projects, we're looking for contributors. We're also end users of cloud native technologies like Kubernetes, Envoy, and whatnot. So if you're interested there, please talk to us. Follow us on Intuit Open Source LinkedIn for all the awesome updates and news. And I'm around, so if you want to talk further, please stop by. And for questions as well, because I'm over time, I'm going to take questions in the field. Thank you so much for listening to me.